we'll start with this. Some action set to go down in the women's super bantamweight division tomorrow in Poland. The fight I talked about in my previous video, the upcoming EBU title defense between Laura Grzyb, the champion, and Stevie Levy, the challenger.
In Poland,
Laura Grzyb, EBU champion, will have home field advantage in what is a knockout boxing night promotion. She's the house fighter, she's the home fighter.
she has those advantages.
In tandem with being the more experienced pugilist overall, she has the amateur background that Stevie Levy doesn't have. Stevie Levy from the United Kingdom, a late starter in the sport, 2 years older than Laura Grzyb. Laura has the amateur pedigree that Stevie doesn't have.
The speed, the sharpness, the coordination that Stevie Levy doesn't have.
Laura Grzyb's quality of competition is comparatively better than Stevie Levy's. So Laura Grzyb is the logical choice here. I see a situation to where Stevie Levy, who's got slower hands and slower feet, heavier feet than Laura Grzyb, she'll be the aggressor, Laura will be the defender, and she'll pick her off.
She'll move and punch. That's her MO.
For what it's worth, I think Stevie Levy is a stronger fighter, a stronger puncher than Laura Grzyb. But power in and of itself isn't always enough to get the job done. Not when the other boxer can box around you, box around your power, neutralize it.
Laura can.
Laura really is more finesse than ferocity, but she shows good movement, good in and out game, good snap on her punches, good speed.
IQ.
Unfortunately for Stevie, the smart money is on Laura. Laura Grzyb on points. She's not the strongest puncher, but she is the better boxer.
Stevie's going home empty-handed.
Laura Grzyb on points is the pick.
North of super bantamweight at featherweight, former IBF champion of Denmark, Sarah Mahfoud, will be in action.
Opposite the ring, one of Argentina's finest, one of Argentina's best in the last 2 decades or so, though here and now, she's not the same fighter that she used to be. I'm talking about Marcela Acuña, Tigresa Acuña, who is currently on a 2-fight winning streak after having dropped a decision to her countrywoman and former champion, Deborah Dionysius. Marcela Acuña has already seen action 2 times this year, so she has no ring rust to shake off per se, though she is quite long in the tooth, many years older than Sarah Mahfoud.
12 years older than Sarah Mahfoud. Marcela Acuña is 46 to Sarah, who is 34.
Saying something that after all these years, a 46-year-old Marcela Acuña is still out here and winning fights, but who is she winning fights against? Journeywomen with upside-down records. At this point, any fighter with any semblance of a ceiling and ability likely beats her, and I think that Sarah is going to tomorrow in Denmark for what is Sarah's WBC silver title. This is a defense of it.
Marcela's on a 2-fight winning streak, and so is Sarah Mahfoud.
After having dropped a lopsided decision to Amanda Serrano 3 fights ago, she has since rebounded. Even though she is in possession of a WBC silver title, I don't actually think Sarah is looking for a rematch with Amanda per se. I think she's waiting for Amanda to perhaps drop the belt, to retire, to go do something else. I don't necessarily think this fight sets up a Serrano versus Mahfoud rematch. What I think this sets up is a Mahfoud versus Nicholson fight. Sky Nicholson.
Why?
Because Sarah Mahfoud has the WBC silver title and Sky Nicholson is the WBC interim champion. The World Boxing Council's annual convention later on this year, I could see a fight between them being ordered.
Why?
Just told you why. And Sky Nicholson did make some mention of returning to action at least one more time before this year is out. So you figure that if Sarah Mahfoud takes care of business this weekend and is relatively unscathed, maybe she fights Sky Nicholson before this year is out, or at some point in the first or second quarter of next year.
The WBC silver champion versus the WBC interim champion. First, Sarah's got to take care of business against Marcela Acuña, and I think she can. I think she will.
If this were a prime Marcela Acuña, or even a Marcela Acuña from as recent as 3 or 4 years ago, I would actually go with Marcela to win the fight. But at 46 years old,
nah, man.
Forget it. I think Sarah's going to be too fresh, too sharp, a little bit too fast for the aging fighter, the former champion Marcela Acuña. Sarah's not a power puncher. She's not a heavy-handed fighter, so a points decision is likely.
Sarah's got home field advantage.
She's the house fighter. She's the home fighter.
She's got those advantages, and she is the much, much younger fighter, at least compared to Marcela. So Sarah on points. It's the pick.
Men's lightweight news. An exchange between Gervonta Davis and a disgruntled Twitter user that isn't impressed at all with what he's been doing so far. Miggs stated, Gervonta is a nobody outside of 135. I said what I said. Gervonta Davis himself didn't take too kindly to that comment, saying, this boxing shit is mine, buddy. Fuck a weight class. I am the face.
The face of what? Domestic violence?
Arrested development. This is why Gervonta Davis' supporters say what they say. They're just repeating what they hear him say. They follow him blindly without any coherent or independent thought.
He's the face of degeneracy, not the face of boxing.
And the boxing community at large, a good number of them, let him have it, reminded him of that under the comments of his own post, where he stated that he's the face. Well, a lot of people don't seem to think so.
They don't agree.
If we're gonna be adults here, it's not really a debate as to who the face of boxing is. Thus, whoever tells you that it's Gervonta Davis,
you're just childish.
Childish and stupid. And you're not stupid because of things you don't know. Nobody knows it all. Nobody's stupid because of things they don't know. They're stupid because of things they don't want to know. Things they deny. That you could hold the proof up to them, right up to their face. You will likely get an emotional response from said individuals than an intellectual one. This is not an intellectual discussion, in spite of us having had that discussion in that arena many times here on the channel. Why is it that there are those out there who are so adamant that Gervonta Davis is the face of boxing? What motivates them?
Identity politics.
Gervonta's own delusions of grandeur is one thing. You do more or less expect that from a professional fighter, a professional athlete. It's customary in the sport.
Par for the course.
But why do some people seem to go along with it? And it's what I told you. It's identity politics. It's tribalism.
If we're going to be blunt, there's a lot of people that adore Gervonta Davis, not because of anything that he's done or anyone he's actually beat, because he hasn't beaten anyone of note. They just like him because of the color of his skin and where he's from.
It's tribalism, and it's not one way. Tribalism exists amongst the Latino fans, the European fans. It exists the world over. It exists across the board. But what's the difference between a Mexican fan supporting Canelo and saying he's the face of boxing and an American fan supporting Gervonta and saying he's the face of boxing? The difference, the deciding factor, is the numbers. This is a numbers game. All the numbers support Canelo being the face of boxing.
The facts of the matter.
The facts and stats. The corporate sponsorships, the big endorsements, the Super Bowl commercial. We've already had this conversation.
We have.
This isn't necessarily about that. What this is about is what goes through the mind of an individual so easily swayed by tribalist sentiments.
What, you think because you got one or two things in common with Gervonta, that's supposed to make Gervonta the face of boxing, or Gervonta the greatest in the world? Just because he's got one or two things in common with you. Yeah. What the fuck do you have to do with anything?
The fuck does what he has in common with you have to do with anything?
Nothing.
These are just full-grown adults with underdeveloped minds that feel the need for validation. They have to somehow, some way, make everything about themselves. And when they see Gervonta Davis, they see more of themselves in him than they may see in a Canelo Alvarez or a Naoya Inoue, these foreign fighters.
I was listening into the boxing voice earlier today, and I heard a caller call in say that Canelo's the face of Mexican boxing and Gervonta Davis is the face of American boxing, when it doesn't work like that.
How could Gervonta Davis be the face of American boxing when he's being outsold, outdone in America by Canelo? It's not Gervonta Davis that holds the indoor attendance record in America. It's Canelo. It's not Gervonta Davis that gets paid $40 to $50 million per fight.
It's Canelo.
And while the latest narrative is that Gervonta has usurped Canelo as the face of boxing due to the success of the Ryan Garcia fight,
because it sold 1 million pay-per-views.
he's pretending that he sold that thing all by himself, and his fans are playing along with him. Need I remind you that before he even fought Ryan Garcia, they were already saying he's the face of boxing when he was doing paltry numbers like 200,000 and 250.
They've been making this illogical case since before the Ryan Garcia fight. Thus, approaching it logically would be illogical.
You don't waste logic on illogical people.
These are not serious people.
The best way to deal with these schmucks is to not deal with them at all, but therein lies a dilemma. Most people don't try to. Most people, they don't listen. What these guys do in the pursuit of validation is they inject themselves into conversations that no one is having with them because no one wants to converse with them. No one cares what their views or perspectives are.
It's not enough that they harbor those sentiments amongst themselves. They wish to spread them out, spread them around in pursuit of validation from others.
They already know, deep down, their own perspectives have no value.
None.
You say something, you might as well say nothing at all because no one listens and no one cares.
No one,
so it's not enough for that individual to harbor those sentiments. They will pursue engagement and validation in others.
Me and you.
It's not enough that they adore this protected little butterball. They want me and you to adore this protected little butterball.
They want me and you to call this protected little butterball the face of boxing. And they get in their tits if we don't.
And when we don't, they perceive that as a personal attack because this is an athlete they are living vicariously through. Thus, an attack on him, in their mind, is an attack on them.
But this isn't even about you. Nobody gives a fuck about you.
This is about boxing. This is about who is the face of boxing. And the face of boxing, being the face of boxing, that's a numbers game. It always has been, and it still is. Just because you did 1 million pay-per-view buys once.
That don't make you the face of boxing.
The day Gervonta Davis is on a Forbes list and Canelo isn't, then he'll be the face of boxing. But that day ain't the day.
Nope.
This is all about validation. And the pursuit of validation is a byproduct, a symptom of an underlying illness. What is an inferiority complex? The need to make everything about themselves.
It's an inferiority complex.
See, these guys don't feel their perspectives are valid unless me or you agree with them, and when we don't, they want to argue.
We will approach the discussion from a logical, intellectual perspective, and they will approach it from an emotional one. I don't care about your emotions, your fucking feelings.
Fuck you.
Fuck your feelings.
Nobody gives a fuck how you feel.
Fuck what you feel.
Fuck what you think, because it's your inability to think we're addressing.
You got it, Frankenbeans?
You guys are too fucking stupid to be taken seriously. You're not serious people.
Shut the fuck up.
And finally, in men's heavyweight news, Eddie Hearn has suggested that Anthony Joshua could now pursue a Philippe Hrgovic fight for the IBF heavyweight world title instead of Deontay Wilder. That news changes things. The goal is to become a 3-time world champion, and that would allow us to do that. The Wilder fight is much bigger, but the Hrgovic fight comes with a world title. That will always take priority. It's important to note that Philippe Hrgovic is not a world champion. He's an interim champion. He's in line to fight for the world title, but he's not a world champion himself.
Oleksandr Usyk is IBF champion, full champion.
So Eddie's trying to have AJ fight Usyk again.
I don't think so.
And what do you think?
The Fury versus Usyk fight was officially announced.
Right.
And the Fury versus Usyk fight has a 2-way rematch clause. Whoever loses, if it's Fury, if it's Usyk, they can activate it.
Okay.
The Fury versus Usyk winner, the winner of the first fight, they're on the hook to satisfy the IBF mandatory, and the IBF mandatory is Philippe Hrgovic.
Tell me more.
If the winner of the fight, if the winner of Fury versus Usyk is all tied up with a rematch as a result of the rematch clause, they're not available to fight Philippe Hrgovic.
I think I understand.
The winner of the fight, whoever it is, will not be available to fight Philippe. Rather, they will not be available to fight the winner of a Joshua versus Hrgovic fight. So what happens if they're not available?
The title is forfeit. The title goes vacant. And the winner of Hrgovic versus Joshua would then be elevated to full champion. I see the strategy.
I see it.
I see his logic. They were already talking about getting Anthony back out there ahead of a Wilder fight since things fell apart in Saudi.
They pulled the funding.
It's not Wilder's fault. It's not AJ's fault. It's nobody's fault. There's been a shift in the axis of power in Saudi, and Skills Challenge is no longer in charge. Turki Al-Ashik is in charge, and I guess the Turkey a la Sheik didn't want to pay for that fight. It is what it is. The most recent news we heard in reference to AJ versus Wilder before this news was that they were fielding different site offers from different sites
to do the Wilder versus Joshua fight sometime next year. And while they were waiting for that, Anthony Joshua might get back out there one more time in either December or January. That was the last news we heard before this news.
This news, at least according to Eddie Hearn, it changes things because it clears a path for a world title shot, a world title opportunity, and you must admit that negotiating a fight between AJ and Hrgovic is a lot less complex than negotiating a fight with AJ and Wilder. Wilder's gonna want what he would have made in Saudi.
But Saudi's not in the running anymore.
The money that they hoped to make from that fight, it's not on the table at this point in the juncture. AJ's not going to hold up his career any further on what are supposed to be mega fights, big fights. He's lost enough time on that in the past that he doesn't want to lose any more of it. He wants to stay active. He wants to stay sharp. Philippe Hrgovic is right there on the matchroom side of things with him, so it's a fairly uncomplicated situation.
It's an easy fight to make. I don't mind it.
Though many will ask, where does that leave Deontay Wilder? It's murky, given everything that's going on with the PBC and Showtime, what fights they're already trying to make, where would Wilder fit into it?
And what remains of this year and their questionable future in the sport.
I don't know, but what I do know is that this month makes a year from the last time that Deontay Wilder fought. Time flies when you're negotiating mega fights.
He's not getting any younger.
So if the PBC cannot get Deontay Wilder the kind of money that he wants, I have a novel idea. I have a novel suggestion.
What?
Why doesn't Wilder go to Matchroom? Why doesn't he fight on DAZN? They have pay-per-view functionality. They might be able to bankroll that Andy Ruiz fight. Why doesn't he just go there instead of spending time in limbo waiting for the gravy train to make a stop?
He needs a fight.
Even if it's not Andy Ruiz, he does need a fight. He does need a tune-up fight.
He needs a fight.
Deontay Wilder going over to Matchroom and DAZN would be unexpected. It would shake things up in a way that might breathe a little bit more life into his career while it's in its twilight years. I don't think people would expect him to do that.
You think Eddie Hearn would be receptive to it?
I do. Now that they don't have Canelo to accommodate anymore, that frees up a lot of funds. That frees up a lot of money.
They could pay for Wilder versus Ruiz.
They could. And even if they can't get Andy to the table, they can get Wilder a fight. They're at minimum capable of getting him a ham and egger to knock out. I think he should go there.